Here's another thing the government is stalling on. Tony Abbott promised to change the Racial Discrimination Act to allow more free speech. Right now, if you simply offend or insult someone on the grounds of race, you can be sued and banned. I know. But Abbott broke his promise, saying he needed harmony with the Muslim community.
When it comes to counter-terrorism, everyone needs to be part of Team Australia. And I have to say that the government's proposals to change 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act have become a complication in that respect.
But Family First Senator Bob Day has since taken up the Liberals' promise in his own bill. And Malcolm Turnbull told me in May he supported those changes.
There was a very general consensus that, a broad consensus among lots of interested groups and stakeholders that the words insult and offend could be removed, leaving the words
that?
Humiliate and intimidate. I was very comfortable about that. I didn't think that would have any sort of negative impact.
Well, that's good. But now that as Prime Minister, Turnbull wants to delay debate on Day's bill until next year at least, and again, to placate Muslim Australians. Joining me is one of the senators who supports this fight for free speech, Liberal Democrat David Leyonhjelm. Thanks for joining me. Is Turnbull right to withhold his support for this bill?
Well, I think the reason that he wanted to delay on it wasn't to placate Muslim groups. It was because it was being used by both the Labor Party and some of his critics within his own party to create division. Bob Day and I were under pressure to bring the private senators' bill to a vote, but not for with the possibility that it might pass or that it might progress the issue. It was just to expose the fact that there were different points of view within the Liberal Party. We didn't think that was a very constructive outcome. The Labor Party was gleefully looking forward to seeing the difference of opinion in the Liberals. We didn't want to be used as some sort of political tool.
Well,
so we agreed.
Yeah, but despite what you say, look, you may be right, but it was briefed out to the media that this would be in the way of harmony with the Muslim community, a senior source. But anyway, do you think Malcolm Turnbull will ever support this bill, really?
Well, I hope so. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him about it in recent times, but I hope so. Malcolm is under some constraints within his own party. He has to placate the Conservative wing that's still feeling a little wounded over the replacement of Abbott, his replacement of Abbott, and his own wing, which is more small L Liberal, which wants to see progress on this area. And obviously he's in a position where he has to keep both sides of his party happy and deal with the Labor Party as his opposition. So I suspect he'll probably go slowly, but I know where his heart lies. It's a matter of whether or not he can bring his party with him.
Oh, it's really where his courage lies, because several Liberals, Corey Bernardi, Zed Seselja, have publicly supported these changes already. Why are they important? Why is it important to change the Racial Discrimination Act to allow more free speech?
Well, look, free speech is probably the most fundamental freedom of all. It's not just 18C. I've supported, well, I've opposed impositions on free speech in some of the national security legislation as well. In fact, I think I'm the only one who's consistently supported free speech all the way through. It's the bedrock of all of our other freedoms. And the idea that the law can stop you from offending somebody is ridiculous. We are responsible for the way we feel ourselves. We're responsible for our own feelings. We don't feel love or hate or grievance caused by other people. If we feel like we're offended, we have the option of choosing another feeling. And I think the law should just get out of it. It's not a matter for the law.
Now, this week you said you'd push to scrap the federal law that bans euthanasia in the Northern Territory, where Commonwealth law still applies. Why?
We have an increasingly ageing population. There is very strong feeling, especially amongst older Australians, that it's not the government's business to tell them that they can't end their life unless they are still able-bodied and can do it by their own hand. They like the reassurance. I don't think there's going to be a rush towards assisted suicide, even if the legislation changes. But there is a feeling that they just like to know they have the option that if they decide their time is up, they want to go, but they're too feeble or ill to do it themselves, that someone can help them go. And there's terrific support for it. Everywhere I go, people bring it up. And I think its time has come.
But is it dangerous? You know, I used to be a supporter of euthanasia. Now I'm very worried by it. You see, the Northern Territory had euthanasia laws in 1995 for a few weeks, and 7 people applied to use them, and 4 actually killed themselves with the help of Dr. Philip Nitschke, or advice from. Nitschke later co-wrote a paper for the Lancet Medical Journal conceding that 3 of the patients were actually socially isolated and lonely, many were clinically depressed, and some were probably not even terminally ill. Now, isn't the danger that euthanasia is really just an easy way to get rid of the lonely and depressed and the sad? You know, it's much easier to bump them off, so to speak, than to give them the support and love they need.
Well, at the end of the day, we're talking about who has ultimate say over your life, you or somebody else or the government. We're not talking about coercion here or forcing anybody. There has to be absolutely consent, and there are various ways in which you can ensure that consent is present. The fact that people are not terminally ill and yet they choose to end their own life is not actually rule that relevant. You can commit suicide now and you can be in, you know, the prime of your life. What we're talking about here is when people are not in the prime of their life, they are too old or too feeble or too ill to end their own life, even though they would if they could, and it's a crime for anybody to help them. That's the point here. Now, my bill, if it passes, will simply allow the ACT and Northern Territory to pass laws that will allow that to occur. It's more symbolic than real, and in the end, it's up to the states and territories to legislate on this matter, as it should be. It's not a Commonwealth matter. And what controls and what verification of consent they put in will be up to them.
Malcolm Turnbull, he's been a month in the job. Still no major initiatives, David? Absolutely nothing? Slow and steady, or just spinning his wheels?
Yes, I'll have to get back to you on either of those options, but so far it's all positive. Certainly plenty of engagement, much changed culture in terms of engaging with the crossbench. I hear a lot less grumbling from his own senators. There are 8 ministers now in the Senate, and so my contact with the ministry is really good. Just last week, for example, I met 8 ministers, and that's almost unheard of. I have Malcolm's phone number. He has mine. We've spoken on the phone a couple of times. I hope to catch up with him next week. From a crossbench point of view, there's a tremendous amount of goodwill towards Malcolm, which wasn't present with Tony. I had nothing personally against Tony, but some of the crossbench weren't enamoured with him. Like
Jackie Lambie, Glenn Lazarus, you're sensing much more willingness to cooperate.
Yeah, yes, that's right. There's much more willingness to cooperate.
And we've still got that financial deficit. The only thing I'm seeing here is this government's got no deficit of words, has it? No,
well, that's right. Malcolm likes to talk. He's a very engaging guy.
But where's the action, Dave? Where's the action?
Well, it's still early days.
There and
yeah, it's still early days. I have to say his ministers have been let off the leash well and truly. They're talking to me. Now, if that translates into action which actually gets through the Parliament, and that's the key thing, does it get through Parliament, I think that will be a good thing. And there is a process involved in that. Talking to the crossbench, finding out what is achievable. There wasn't a heck of a lot of that done before under Abbott, I have to say.
No, you're quite right. Well, that is an improvement, and yeah, well, let's see. David Leyonhjelm, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.